For every gamer, there exists their first set of games. For many, this was the ones they played as a kid and didn't really have a choice in what the games were. Either they were your parents or a friend's, or someone bought them for you. Because of this, it's very easy to have slightly distorted views on the actual quality of these games. This is because when you're young and you don't have many games, the ones you do have, you play to death over and over again, even if they aren't very good. You make them good. So when looking back on the games I played as a kid, I often wonder if my memories for them are real, or if they are flavoured too heavily by nostalgia and rose-tinted glasses. I decided to test this by delving into one of my favourites as a kid, Prehistorik Man on the Super Nintendo. And today I'm happy to tell you that the result of that test was that I was not wrong as a kid. Prehistorik Man is an absolute gem. So let's talk a little about the background of the game. It's made by Titus Interactive, a French software developer which developed games for 20 years before going bust in 2005, creating a whole range of titles, both original and licenses. They get a bad rap nowadays because they're most infamously known for releasing Superman 64, but they did make some pretty good games, and I think this is one of their best. Released in the waning years of the Super Nintendo in 1995 and 1996, it follows the titular character Sam as he adventures out to get the village's food back from the dinosaurs which had nicked it all, a rather quaint setup. So far so good. There are countless platformers on the Super Nintendo though, I hear you say, and many of them are generic and frankly bland, and don't hold up today past the first couple of levels. So what is it about Prehistorik Man which makes it stand up and fun even to this day? Well, the first reason is the sheer inventiveness of the game. The issue with many platformers is that they don't evolve as the game goes on. It's essentially the same gameplay from start to finish, and this means it can get boring quickly. Prehistorik Man sidesteps this by constantly introducing new gameplay mechanics, only to take them away the following level. It keeps it fresh and interesting. I'm going to go through a few. So the first level is pretty standard platforming fare. It introduces the basic playing mechanics, the idea of collecting food, how to control Sam, etc. The second level amps it up a little, with the aim of this one being to collect a special skin. The third level is where things really start getting creative, with the game letting you use a hang glider created by a professor in order to fly around the level, collecting diamonds in order to bribe the policeman whom will not let you pass for flying without a license. The fourth level sees the player collecting different orbs in an Indiana Jones style adventure to move a gigantic head from a doorway. Level 5 is more simple, needing to find just one object, but introduces the jungle style for the first time and the mechanics of jumping from vine to vine, which is the core concept of the following level. Level 7 is where the first boss in the game is introduced. The essence of this stage is around a volcano exploding and lava coming in waves, making the ground deadly and Sam having to escape up a vine. The boss itself is a gruesome dinosaur that reminds me a little of the bosses from Contra, especially the overall setup of the fight itself. It's not too difficult to beat, but it's challenging enough to not be frustrating. Level 8 continues the theme of the fire rising, with the goal being to escape from it up the inside of a gigantic tree trunk. This is followed by a level in which you escape over the treetops, and it introduces a new gameplay mechanic, a spear which you can throw at walls, and for a few seconds, Sam is able to use them as ledges, reaching secret places and traversing through the level. It's at this point in the game where I appreciate the effort the developers have gone to actually make the levels flow from one another and feel like a proper adventure. It's too easy for platform games to just take place in random scenarios which don't have any relevance from one another, so it's nice to see whenever they take the time to actually think through the game from start to finish. After this, there is a stage in which you have to use the wind to get up a tree, followed by one in which you have to rescue a hunter and find a pair of keys, then one in which you use a pogo stick, known as an ooga booga, to jump around the forest. The game is not done there though. Continuing on, there is a stage in which you have to find a firefly at night, then the next stage is using that firefly to climb back down the tree in total darkness, with another boss battle at the end of it, a level finding some ancient books in a village, and there is even one in which you have to use a rolling wheel in order to jump up ramps. There are more stages I haven't talked about, but my point is, in a game of only 23 stages, this is pretty impressive stuff. I love a game which constantly reinvents itself and isn't afraid to take risks with the gameplay. The game is so fun to play because each stage introduces something new, but then it never sticks around long enough to get boring or tedious. Even on the stages I'm not a huge fan of, the mechanic only lasts one stage, so it's never enough to ruin the experience. It's an absolute joy to play. Another reason I think it holds up is the control. I think it's a really tight platformer, and it's the type of game in which you never feel that dying is out of your control. Instead, it's something you've done, which is the right way to make these sort of games. There is a slight momentum to the character too. As Sam runs like a dog on all fours, when he turns, he keeps going slightly in the direction he was just going. He controls differently to other fast characters, for example Sonic, Whereas Sonic controls more like a car and gradually accelerates to full speed, Sam is pretty much there from the get-go. There is also downward momentum too, and if Sam falls from a great enough height, he'll simply bounce off his arse on the floor. I really enjoy the graphics too. They have that cartoony, colourful, Super Nintendo style which is so charming. All the little animations the characters have mean you get the feeling that a lot of love went into making this. The music though is something I find hard to quantify. Music is so subjective, and I personally really like the music. That being said, I can't tell if it's subjectively good or if it's just generic 16-bit tunes that I love because of my nostalgia, so I'll have to let you decide. There's much more in this game too. There are secret bonus stages, additional weapons to find and use, extra heart containers, and even a shop. The main goal of each stage, beyond the one to actually get to the goal, is to collect as much food as possible. This food is then counted at the end of the stage by the chief, who either berates or praises you for bringing back dinner to the village, or not getting enough. There's no requirements, so just a nice little addition to the experience and gives something for completionists to do, attempting to hunt down every piece. Well, I think I've stated my opinions on this game pretty well. If you get the chance, I'd highly suggest picking up this game. It's not very expensive on eBay, and I'm pretty sure it's available on other various virtual consoles. If you do get it, go for the Super Nintendo version, as I've heard the other ports aren't quite as good. That was my video. If you like watching this, please consider subscribing to hear me talk about more games, and even ticking the little notification bell if you want that. Let me know in the comments any game which you think is underrated, and we'll have a right old chinwag. Goodbye!